Hello, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Content Services in the Cloud. My name is Daniel Pinkstock, and I'll be your host for this session. I'm joined today by my colleague, Terry McGraw. Terry and I are both regional managers here at Systemware. This webinar is the first of a 5-part series, and today we will focus on some of the top challenges we are seeing organizations having with content management and how Systemware Content Cloud is addressing these issues and helping their businesses move forward.
Let's touch briefly on who we are for those that are joining us for the first time. Systemware is a content services provider, and we've been in the industry for almost 40 years. We provide solutions to many of the world's largest organizations since our beginning. Our intelligent content services platform, known as Content Cloud, helps organizations modernize their content management systems, connect disparate repositories, streamline processes, and enable content for business intelligence. Content Cloud deploys seamlessly in external cloud platforms and delivers optimized performance in public, private, or hybrid cloud environments, as well as a fully hosted solution. Throughout these past 4 decades, we've seen a wide variety of challenges that our clients have faced when deciding on a solutions provider, and it is those exact pain points that help drive our roadmap. We develop our products in-house with the flexibility to meet the personalized needs of all organizations, not just a few. We realize that your business information is a very valuable asset, and your solutions provider should be listening and adjusting to your needs, not the other way around.
Okay, so let's get started with some of the top barriers we often see holding many organizations back, and we'll begin with legacy ECM, or legacy enterprise content management. So what exactly is legacy ECM? It's exactly just as it sounds: old, outdated, and antiquated systems and processes. In terms of content management, legacy systems were the star of the show at one point in time, but as we all know, technologies evolve quickly. And don't feel alone if your organization has legacy ECM systems. We see this in just about every organization, and while it may seem like you are eternally tied to those systems and weighed down by their poor performance, among other things, there is a very clear path to a modern solution. One of the big challenges we see in the field with legacy ECM is the actual migration process itself. Content migration is a big decision. I think we would all agree on that. It can be overwhelming, and that's why we always tell everyone, approach it very clearly with a well-defined strategy and an experienced business partner. And that stands true even if you aren't a customer of Systemware. We always recommend you gain a complete understanding of the process from beginning to end when you're dealing with an asset as critical as your company's content. Organizations need to feel confident in a provider's ability to help them transfer their information to a new environment efficiently without disruption to their end users. And also very important, they need to know it is being done securely, protecting their customers' data privacy and the integrity of their own business processes. And information, as you know, not only includes the content itself, but also the ancillary knowledge surrounding it that provides a wealth of meaning and history. The migration process should not leave behind important business knowledge, such as metadata, processes, retention policies, events, and folder structure. For example, we have clients utilizing Monarch, which is a third-party tool used for report mining to extract data from files, and it is sometimes bundled with provider solutions. Systemware Content Cloud can import those models into our extraction templates, which helps eliminate the concern of roadblocks to user productivity in a new environment. Terry, your thoughts on this?
Yes, you're absolutely correct. Organizations do tend to worry when moving to new platforms that the ancillary or the tribal knowledge, along with long established process flows, will be lost in an unfamiliar new environment, and the results of that could be a significant decline of information accessibility, which in turn brings down user productivity, which obviously you want to avoid. At Systemware, we have a well-established intelligent approach to content migration. And this process that we have has been enhanced over time, as I mentioned, 4 decades. So our migration process definitely has experience on its side. And that experience helps provide a simplified way to move your business forward. Our legacy archive processor, or LAP as we call it, enables organizations just like your own with the ability to seamlessly access and extract content across all of your connected systems through a single modern UI. And content migration does not take years to complete. You may have that concern, or you may have been told that at some point by your provider, or just in the halls of your own corporation. But the fact is that it's simply not true that a successful content migration takes years to complete. And a good recent example that we've seen in a case study where we partnered with Anheuser-Busch to meet a very tight deadline and completed their content migration in just a couple of weeks. Now they're easily positioned to replatform and prepare for newer technologies and modernization initiatives. And another great example that we've seen through a similar recent study with a Fortune 500 retail pharmacy that needed to modernize and simplify its enterprise content management ecosystem. The particular pharmacy had 4 separate ECM software products, including ASG Mobius, ViewDirect, and there were several issues that the company needed to address around capture, retrieval, storage, and licensing costs. And Systemware was able to complete that conversion in around 4 months. We will be covering more case studies like this in the 5th webinar of our series to demonstrate migration cases for some of our customers like Anheuser-Busch that were completed by our team in a very short time frame. And of course, those cases are always available on our website, and our team would love to discuss them with you at any time. We understand that no two situations are ever quite the same, so we designed our lab to provide personalized choices for content capture from legacy ECM system. Parallel access to content during the migration process is just one essential feature of the lab that helps minimize disruption. Existing content can either remain in place on the legacy repository to be accessed using pointers, or it can be migrated to Content Cloud only when it is accessed. And of course, the third option used when retiring old hardware systems is to migrate all content at once. And the LAP options maintain proper compliance for retention and data privacy while allowing the ability to utilize existing infrastructure to cut costs should you choose that path. Each approach is done seamlessly and with transparency to your end users, all of which is essential in today's fast-paced digital world, and it is well within reach for any organization, including yours.
Thank you, Terry. Next, let's touch on a very important topic, user adoption and user experience. User adoption is always a big area of concern when change is involved because you certainly want to make sure you're not creating more problems than solutions. I think most end users would agree to have their jobs made easier, not harder, right? And one way to do that is by allowing your users to experience change in a familiar environment. User experience is different for everyone. Someone in an accounts payable department would need a different interface as someone in human resources. And more we are hearing customers tell us that they want one central place to access all the applications they need to perform their daily tasks more efficiently. Terry, anything to add here?
You're right. End users need fast, secure access to their business content anytime, anywhere, and from one user interface. A positive user experience is one of the most important things you can do for your business. If your users are unhappy with the performance of your systems, the product you are selling no longer matters. And at Systemware, our development team and support teams listen to our customers, and our products reflect that. Content Cloud was designed for the user, and it has been evolved based on the changing business requirements that our customers need to be successful. One capability Content Cloud offers to enhance the user experience is automation. And believe it or not, automation is not always common. Many organizations rely heavily on manual intervention to perform very simple, repeatable processes. And with automation, these processes and others, workflows for example, can be streamlined and implemented with a decreased risk of users being impacted. End users want things to be modern and simple. It makes their daily tasks more productive. And to reiterate Daniel's earlier point, most end users would agree to have their jobs made easier and not harder. Let's take our managed services, for example. With this option, Systemware can take the stress of information management off of your plate while giving users immediate access to new tools, applications, technologies without having to rely on internal development or additional IT resources. Back to you, Daniel.
Thank you. Next, we're going to touch on integration. This is always a valid concern when introducing new technology within organizations. Is everything going to connect smoothly and function properly? As we can see in our current global crisis, organizations have been left with really no other choice than to go digital in order to thrive, and many provider companies have struggled to keep pace with the sudden demand. Companies have been forced to face the reality of inefficiencies, with not only their legacy systems, but also underperforming solutions that just can't take on the massive influx of information and access demands because the systems were simply not designed to handle such an enormous volume of content growth and user requests. And with digital processes being the new normal, this is only going to continue to increase. So while you may have an amazing product that can carry the load for a while, over time it will not be enough if the systems are unable to efficiently scale and process user requests.
That's correct, Daniel. Take the recent COVID situation as an example where millions of users needed immediate online access to perform just common everyday tasks like school, work, banking, and so forth. It's something you might not have thought before 2020 you would only see in a movie, but here we are. And it's been a huge source of frustration for many people that need fast, reliable access, but the systems they are on are half a century old mainframes that are just not keeping up. Content Cloud has the technical agility to easily adapt and integrate with converging technologies. Organizations must be able to securely connect users to their content regardless of where it resides. And additionally, our open API allows organizations full access to our set of microservices to develop custom applications and service modules to integrate with their existing systems. And this helps to reduce costs while also satisfying the specific needs of business lines, groups, or individuals.
Yeah, we get a lot of questions around risk, and rightfully so. Organizations have valid concerns that should always be addressed when it comes to the safe and secure transition of their content should they choose to move to a new platform. I'm sure many of you can relate if you have ever been involved in such an IT project. Questions like, will we experience data loss? That's obviously a very big one. Will there be disruption to our end users? Will the ancillary knowledge we mentioned earlier remain intact? And the list goes on and on.
Yes, with content migration, there's also the concern of data protection and privacy. Companies risk not only their reputation, but also can be slapped with some pretty steep fines for mishandling information. Do you have legal rights to process the data? Do you have a regulatory obligation to retain it? And under certain laws and regulations, for example, California's new Consumer Privacy Act, known as CCPA, strict laws apply on the control and processing of personal information, and that our belief is that is the first of many to follow. Data protection and privacy should be a top priority for organizations. Consumers need to feel confident in their decision to trust companies with their personal information. Systemware offers several capabilities to simplify data protection management, such as identifying content with granular indexing and useful metadata, dynamic data masking based on permissions, storing, retrieving, and removing content with segmentation, securing content with data encryption and role-based permissions for access control, simplifying audit processes with workflows and automation, and so much more. The main point here is that it's always very important that your solutions provider do a thorough risk assessment, but it's even more important to get the complete acceptable answers that you feel comfortable with. And a quick and easy path to content migration and integration with emerging technologies is absolutely essential to prevent organizations from being held captive by solution providers when the time comes to move forward.
Yeah, that really is great stuff and great insight. Let's talk about costly storage next. Legacy systems generally reside on expensive media such as mainframe DASD or optical worm data storage. And as we talked about earlier, many of these disparate repositories have little or no means to connect or function as an integrated whole. What information is stored there? Is it needed? Is it used? If it is used, how often? What are the SLAs around this usage? Organizations that needlessly store content on expensive storage incur unnecessary operational costs, both from the technology itself and the employees who must manage it.
And not to mention the resources that have the backgrounds in such areas as the mainframe, they're becoming increasingly harder to find. In a CNN Business article published in April of this year, several state governors cited problems with the systems driven by decades-old computer programming language because their essential systems, such as unemployment benefits, are housed within older mainframe environments, which are unable to keep up with the surge in demand during the pandemic. Maintaining and upgrading outdated infrastructure can be very expensive and time-consuming for organizations, and especially if it is outdated or no longer supported. With the hosted Content Cloud, for example, there are many opportunities to realize cost savings with storage in particular because there are no on-premise infrastructure costs such as hardware, data centers, and networks. Systemware Content Cloud enables organizations to be in the driver's seat of decisions to best leverage their environment for maximum cost savings and efficiency, whether that be a hosted, on-premise, or hybrid solution. The choice is entirely up to our customer.
So on the topic of cost savings, compliance is another crucial area for organizations to realize cost savings. With cloud-based content services, advanced security features prevent private information from being accessed by unauthorized users, in turn, preventing governance violations and costly fines. Some industries, such as banking and finance, have regulatory bodies that require organizations to retain data for a certain period of years. Often, the main reason organizations in these industries retain content so long is to meet these regulations.
That's right, Daniel. As a minimal requirement for any SaaS provider, SOC 2 compliance should be utilized for privacy of customer data, as well as secured transmission feeds to ensure proper data protection laws are being followed and represented in the best interest of your organization. Earlier, I mentioned California's CCPA regulation. This legislation closely mimicked the EU's GDPR and included the consumer protection of the right to erasure, or more commonly, the right to be forgotten. In a recent IAPP annual governance report, found the most difficult GDPR obligation for companies in 2019 was the fulfillment of the right to be forgotten. In such a case, organizations must have processes in place to locate data spread across multiple repositories and files that are oftentimes enormous in size and securely delete it without affecting the integrity of surrounding data. Organizations are at risk of fines, penalties, and a damaged reputation for improper handling of personal data or for storing information beyond necessity. Modern content services platforms enable the identification of content with indexing and useful metadata, processes that are time-consuming, if not impossible, with traditional legacy ECM systems. We at Systemware are paying very close attention to these new laws, as all solution providers should be. Content Cloud's enhanced protection features, such as data masking and encryption, help mitigate the risks of security breaches and privacy violations for organizations. And the cost of doing nothing to stay in compliance is obviously very risky and very high.
Legacy ECM is just one barrier, but let's talk about other common challenges that move businesses to cloud-based content services. Mergers and acquisitions, in short, is just that, the merging of companies to form one, or the acquiring of one company by another. And when companies merge, there are undoubtedly going to be issues that arise from information silos. Ideally, all your content should be easily accessible regardless of where it is stored, right? But we know that's not always the case. And mergers and acquisitions is a good example of why. Many organizations, just like some of your own, have a very wide range of business systems in use, each with its own set of processes and each with its own set of silos. And that's probably the way it was originally, certainly with good intentions of having content management systems that would provide enterprise-wide capabilities like on-demand retrieval for common requests, such as auditing, reporting, customer services, and so forth. But many of these systems were driven by the needs of individual departments, leading to silos of data that were not useful or accessible to users across the entire enterprise. Information silos can be a burden not only because of the associated cost of storage and retrieval, but also the inefficiencies of working with multiple content systems and legacy archives.
Well, it is very common, and it's also very frustrating. For example, when you have an audit and you need to access information that is not easily available. It can become a very manual and time-consuming process, not to mention stressful, as any system administrator can relate to when an audit is in play. End users cannot perform to their full potential if they can't access information. Content lifecycles can be disrupted, and data that is difficult to access is also difficult to govern, leading to risks. Systemware Content Cloud connects information no matter where it resides.
And what about systems that meet the compliance and security requirements of a modern platform, but simply are just not up to the standard? Underperforming systems that are slow or unresponsive are a complete drain on the entire organization, as well as end users and customers. And the worst part is, they should be meeting your needs, because that's what you're paying for. Some of our own customers that we have converted from other solution providers have done so because of poor performance and price hikes that bring with it no additional value or feature, just a bigger bill.
Yes, Daniel, I hear the same thing regarding the frustrations of solutions not delivering on promises. Another big frustration is poor customer service. Customer service is a big deal at Systemware. It is a key differentiator we pride ourselves in, and it begins with our people. The Systemware team goes above and beyond deployments because we believe in our products and support a partnership with a shared focus towards success, and in doing so, deliver the peace of mind and exceptional customer support you deserve from your investment. At Systemware, you'll get 24/7 service from an in-house Systemware expert based in Dallas, Texas, and that support is included throughout the lifetime of your product ownership.
Well, I really want to thank everyone for joining us today. That's going to wrap up today's session. In our next webinar of this series, we're going to discuss the flexible deployment options of Systemware Content Cloud and some use cases for these different scenarios. I want to thank Terry for hosting with me today, and we look forward to hearing from you all soon.
Thank you, Daniel, and thanks to all that joined.